Here are the top stories for today, July 9, 2021. Arigato gozaimasu. Over 1 million doses of Astrazeneca COVID-19 jabs donated by Japan are set to beef up the country's COVID-19 vaccination drive. The country's vaccine czar brushes aside claims of preferential treatment in the distribution of COVID-19 jabs, saying the deployment of the life-saving shots is based on need and caseload of an area. The government says strict border control measures and quarantine rules will keep the country safe from the highly transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant. And this year's Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam is postponed to next year as the country grapples with a worsening COVID-19 situation. Good day. I'm Marita Muaje. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. More than 1 million doses of the Astrazeneca vaccines were delivered to the country last night. The donated jabs from Japan are set to be transported to several areas with a high number of COVID-19 cases. The details from William Theo.
President Rodrigo Duterte renewed his call on his fellow Filipinos to get vaccinated against COVID-19 to stop its further transmission. This following the arrival of more than 1 million doses of AstraZeneca Thursday night. The donated jabs from Japan are said to be part of the Japanese government's initiative to support Southeast Asian nations amid the pandemic. President Duterte thanked the Japanese government and the Japanese Prime Minister for their donation.
Let me thank the government of Japan and the Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga for working with the Philippine government in ensuring equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. These more than 1 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine will surely go a long way in our quest for herd immunity.
The president also thanked Japan for ensuring the safe and efficient delivery of AstraZeneca vaccines to the Philippines.
I express my heartfelt gratitude to Japan for all of the assistance you have extended to our country during these challenging times. By providing cold chain transport and ancillaries, you have enabled us to ensure the safe and efficient transport of these vaccines and preserve its quality and integrity.
He also urges the public to get vaccinated to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Meanwhile, Health Secretary Francisco Duque, who is also present during the turnover of the jab, said the newly arrived AstraZeneca vaccines will be distributed in areas with high cases of COVID-19 infections. He said the jabs will contribute to the government's efforts of achieving population control. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
Contrary to the claim of preferential treatment by Iloilo Representative Janet Garin, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. said there is no favoritism in the distribution of the jobs. Galvez said the government's priority areas in the deployment of vaccines are in the so-called National Capital Region plus 8 and 10 other highly urbanized areas hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Galvez said COVID-19 vaccines are directly distributed to the Department of Health's Committee Health Development Offices per region, including designated health offices of various local government units. He said the national government also checks on the COVID-19 situation of LGUs that ask for more vaccines. Metro Manila mayors remain optimistic that they will hit their vaccination rollout targets despite the limited supply of COVID-19 vaccines. The details from Chris Mundo.
In Pasay City, Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano said they have already vaccinated 44% out of its 70% target. Rubiano said they are now prioritizing the utilization of second doses due to the limited vaccine supply, but vaccination drive will speed up once a large volume of the jab is available. In Marikina, Mayor Marcelino Teodoro said the city government will also increase its vaccination capacity once more vaccines are available. He said the city government suspends the giving of first shots of the Sinovac vaccine following the delay in the delivery due to logistics concerns. In Pasig, Mayor Vico Soto said the city government has already hit the 250,000 jab mark. However, due to the shortage of COVID-19 jabs, some vaccination sites will temporarily stop operation. In San Juan City, Mayor Francis Zamora said 73,987 of the city's 85,400 targets have been vaccinated against the COVID-19. Zamora said that once more vaccine supply is available, they will open another vaccination center. In Mandaluyong, Mayor Carmelita Abalos said the city government is giving relaxed wear vax seals to every household whose members have received COVID-19 vaccines. She said 58.97% of their eligible population have received COVID-19 jab. Meanwhile, Taguig City is set to fully vaccinate 50,000 Taguigeños, or 8% of the total population of the city, as soon as the delivery of the vaccines becomes stable. Taguig has vaccinated 40.6% out of the city's 680,000 aim as of July 6. And Valenzuela and Antipolo both suspend their vaccination appointment while waiting for the new vaccine supply. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Malacanang said the government's decision to remove the swab test requirement for fully vaccinated travelers is a form of an incentive. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said RT-PCR tests have a probability of giving wrong results, which is why the requirement was lifted.
It was decided na because you are fully vaccinated as a way of incentivizing, at saka ang siyensya naman dyan, pag nabakunahan ka na, ang probability na magkakasakit ka ng malala is almost none, no? So, yes, you could still catch it, pero the probability is also not 100% anymore, no?
Currently, all LGUs have to observe all travel guidelines under the IATF EID resolution allowing vaccination cards as a sufficient requirement before travel or upon arrival at LGU of destination. The Department of Health meanwhile said LGUs can still require fully vaccinated travelers a negative swab test result as a requirement for entry into their jurisdictions. Health experts say there is no better way to stop the Delta variant from entering the country than by imposing strict quarantine policies and border controls. Among them is National Task Force Against COVID-19 Medical Advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa. He said the Philippines should not let its guard down as the Delta variant remains a threat. The Department of Health earlier said there is no local case yet of the highly transmissible variant.
As of now, 90 countries already have the Delta variant. We are one of the few na hindi pa pinapatok ng Delta variant. We can continue to keep strict border control, yung ating quarantine policy, pag-ban ng mga countries na mataas ito. We need to keep our border control strict. Pero aside from that, kailangan tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pagsuot ng face mask, face shield, at wag masyadong magpunta sa mga matataong lugar.
The Department of Labor and Employment says the decision to shorten the quarantine period for fully vaccinated returning Filipinos is beneficial. The IATF earlier agreed to shorten the quarantine for arriving passengers from green countries, so long as they have received the 2 COVID-19 vaccine shots. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello said this means lower government spending on the assistance given to those who will undergo quarantine. Bello, however, said they are ready to ask for more funds for the measure if needed. As of July 6, he said some 605,000 OFWs have returned to the country. Regional and provincial police units are ordered to coordinate with local government units regarding entry protocols of travelers. These came as protocols for fully vaccinated travelers are still being finalized by the IATF EID. Last week, the IATF-EID approved a resolution allowing vaccination cards as sufficient alternatives to any testing requirements before travel or upon arrival at LGU of destination. Some local government units, however, expressed concern over the measure on relaxing domestic travel protocols. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar reminded the public to find out the existing rules on the localities they will visit to avoid inconvenience. Despite the eased requirements for non-essential travelers, Baguio City still has a limit on tourist arrivals. Meanwhile, other provinces start accepting vaccination cards as a travel pass. More on this and other news in the provinces from Joyce Cudis.
In Baguio City, daily tourist arrival will still be maintained at 3,000 per day. The limit is said to be their measure to prevent another surge in COVID-19 cases. Mayor Benjamin Magalong said tourist arrivals are not sufficient to start regaining their losses. He said a gradual and safe revival will give a balance to the economy and health amid the pandemic. Meanwhile, inbound travelers to Negros Oriental can now present a vaccination card and negative antigen test as alternate entry requirements. Negros Occidental also started accepting COVID-19 vaccination cards for the entry of fully inoculated interzonal travelers to the province. Meanwhile, the Department of Health in Central Visayas said requiring negative swab test results will bolster the vigilance of local government units against COVID-19. Dr. Van Philip Baton of the DOH Region 7 said that although a vaccination card is an alternative, the LGUs can still require the RT-PCR test result. He said testing is still one of the mainstays in this pandemic response, considering that our vaccination is in the early phases yet. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Joyce Cudis.
Still to come, starting young, the Education Department moves to improve financial literacy education among the youth. And over 31,000 borrowers benefit from interest-free loans offered by the government. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective. I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
The government is giving a fresh start for those who would want to return to their provinces, this time to the north of the country. 9 beneficiaries of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program were transported back to Isabela. The beneficiaries underwent the usual dispatch procedure where they were swab tested and have completed a 14-day quarantine. They were also given food and lodging at the BP2 depot in Quezon City. Among the beneficiaries of the program is Edwin Pahilaga, a security guard who was laid off from his job. Pahilaga and his wife Trinidad has to make ends meet by selling rice cakes. Another beneficiary, Marivic Madrid, is reuniting with her family in Isabela through the government's program. Created under Executive Order 114 last year, the BP2 aims to provide hope for a better future to Filipinos through equity in resources throughout the country aimed at boosting countryside development. It also aims to decongest Metro Manila's urban areas by encouraging people to return to their home provinces and assist them with various forms of support and other incentives.
So far, maganda naman yung pamamalakad nila kasi in-entertain po kami agad. Tapos binigyan din po kami ng mga assistant nila. Inatid po kami dyan sa nila, facility nila ng maayos. Tapos may breakfast din po. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa ng balik probinsya dahil natulungan po kami na makabalik sa aming lungsod sa aming bayan.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa ating mahal na Pangulo, sa kay Senador Bongko, sa binigyan po kami ng pribileyo na sa ganitong pagkakataon po para kami makauwi sa aming probinsya. Kaya maraming salamat po.
The Department of Education said it has expanded and intensified the integration of financial education in the K-12 basic education curriculum to improve the financial literacy and capability of its learners and teachers. The DepEd issued its financial education policy under DepEd Order Number 022, which includes a financial education for learners and capability building activities for teaching and non-teaching personnel. Learners will be taught key concepts and skills on earning, saving, spending, budgeting, donating, investing, planning, consumer protection, and entrepreneurship. They will also learn and understand the value of money and resources, how they are acquired, how to plan and manage assets, and how to save and share. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said financial education is vital in developing a financial literate citizenry, empowering them to make wise decisions, take advantage of economic opportunities, and achieve financial health. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has received 48.5 million worth of weapons and ammunition from the United States government. The weapons were funded by U.S. grant assistance and are intended to enhance the AFP's counter-terrorism capabilities and readiness. The shipment was delivered last July 4 at Clark Air Base by the Joint U.S. Military Assistance Group Philippines. This shipment included 14 M2A1 heavy machine guns, 7 M240B machine guns, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. JUSMAG P Chief and Senior Defense Official to the Philippines Colonel Stephen Ma welcomed the delivery in commemoration of these 75 years of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and the U.S. Since 2015, the U.S. has provided more than 48.6 billion pesos or equivalent to $1 billion in security assistance to the Philippines. The U.S. Embassy in Manila also said the United States and the Philippines this year are commemorating 70 years since the signing of the Mutual Defense Treaty. The Philippine National Police said it is working with other agencies to protect officials of the National Task Force and local communist armed conflict from possible attacks. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar said Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy must have basis in revealing the so-called Oplan Delta based on intelligence reports. The PNP is coordinating with other intelligence units to come up with ways to shield the purposes of NTF-ELCAC from any obstacles. Eleazar, however, said no amount of demolition jobs or assassination plots will hamper the goal of the government's anti-insurgency body, which is to foster lasting peace and development. Badoy said Oplan Delta is a series of slanderous attacks targeting NTF-ELCAC spokesperson, which was recently hatched by National United Front Commission head Nathaniel Santiago of the CPP-NPA-NDF. In our business news, over 31,000 borrowers have benefited from the zero-interest loan funded by the Bayanihan to Hilas 1 Act or the Bayanihan 2. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez said a total of 4.79 billion pesos were already rolled out by the Small Business Corporation to micro, small, and medium enterprises that were affected by the pandemic. As of July 6, Lopez said nearly 4.57 billion pesos worth of loans were approved for 30,000 MSMEs under the Bayanihan Cares or COVID-19 Assistance to Restart Enterprises program. Lopez said loan uptake from the tourism industry remains low as many tourism establishments are reluctant to borrow if their sectors are still closed. Meanwhile, the trade chief is optimistic that the utilization of the budget for CARES for travel loan will increase with the easing of restrictions in areas under modified general community quarantine. In other news, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas target to onboard around 430 government offices under the eGovPay this year. That is being boosted by the increased utilization of digital payment services. BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno said around 387 government entities are currently part of the electronic payment facility that allows everyone to pay their dues to the government online. Diokno said digital payments are more important now than ever, given the movement restrictions set to address the spread of COVID-19. Digital payment transactions surged since the pandemic hit the country in the first quarter of 2020. However, Diokno said the government has been on the right track before the pandemic, citing that around 63% of government payments have been in digital form since 2018. Up next, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines has a new president. And let the games begin next year. This year's Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam is postponed amid COVID-19 concerns. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The country will be able to develop vaccines once the Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines or VIP is established. President Rodrigo Duterte earlier urged Filipino scientists to work faster to develop COVID-19 vaccines so the country would no longer have to rely on supplies from abroad. Department of Science and Technology Secretary Fortunato de la Peña proposed the establishment of the VIP, which he said would be a premier research institute in virology and diseases. De la Peña earlier said the country does not have the capability to develop a vaccine due to the lack of facility that has has a biosafety level 3 and 4. But once it is established, scientists could develop vaccines including a COVID-19 vaccine, therapeutics, and biomedical devices. The Department of Public Works and Highways is set to start the building construction next year and finish it by 2023. Caloocan Bishop Pablo Virgilio David was elected as the new president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP. The 62-year-old prelate was chosen for the position on Thursday, the first day of the two-day online plenary assembly of the bishops. David will succeed outgoing President Davao Archbishop Romulo Valles. David has been serving as CBCP Vice President since December 2017. Meanwhile, Pasig Bishop Milo Hubert Vergara was elected as the new Vice President of the CBCP. The new elected officials will officially assume their positions on December 1 and will serve a 2-year term. The conference meets in plenary sessions every January and July. Former rebels and rebel supporters in Aklan and Masbate have vowed to turn away from the communist movement and work alongside the government. Authorities hailed the continued surrender and return to the government fold by the rebels. Lade Cabagani has the story.
Some 14 residents of Libaco Town in Aklan who used to be supporters and sympathizers of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army pledged their allegiance to the government in a ceremony at the Hanlud High School, Barangay Hanlud on Thursday. Colonel Joem Malong, spokesperson of the Police Regional Office 6, said most of them used to shelter active CPP-NPA members at their houses and give in to their extortion activities. The group was among the 32 surrenderers in Aklan since June 2021. Associate Provincial Prosecutor Plosemar Gonzalez, spokesperson for the Western Visayas Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, said he hopes that they will serve as an inspiration to put a stop to supporting the rebel group and return to the folds of the government. In Masbate, 5 regular NPA rebels yielded to the government troops in Aroroy Town on Tuesday. They turned over to the authorities 1 high-powered and 2 low-powered firearms, as well as 6 anti-personnel mines. Captain John Paul Beleza, 9th Infantry Division Public Affairs Office Chief, said the influx of surrenderers in the province started after the gruesome killing of the FEU's football player Kit Absalon and his cousin Nolven last June 6. A total of 505 CTG members and supporters already surrendered from June 18 to 28, followed by another 16 last July 2. The 16 former rebels have taken their oath of allegiance to denounce the CTG's terrorism and false ideologies. They were presented before the Aroroy Local Police Engagement Team headed by Mayor Arturo Virtusio in a ceremony held at the Tico Maristela Sports and Cultural Center. Captain Beleza said they surrendered after seeing hopeless and useless cause of terrorist group. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Cabagani.
In sports, Japan announced on Thursday it will hold the much-anticipated Tokyo Olympics under a COVID-19 state of emergency. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga announced the 2020 Games, which are being held this summer after they were delayed last year due to the pandemic. The world's biggest games are set to begin on July 23 without any international spectators in attendance. Rigorous health protocols are in place to prevent any spread of the virus. Tokyo and its surrounding provinces were already under state of emergency, which has now been officially extended from next Monday until August 22. Will pass the end of the Games on August 8. Meanwhile, the 31st Southeast Asian Games has been called off for this year. Philippine Olympic Committee President Abraham Tolentino confirmed on Thursday that the biennial sports meet in Hanoi, Vietnam will not push through as scheduled due to COVID-19 concerns. Tolentino, however, said the host country's situation is not the only reason behind the postponement, but also those from other Southeast Asian nations. He also clarified that the new dates of the SEA Games in Hanoi are still set to be announced amid rumors that it might be moved to as late as July next year. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Arigato gozaimasu! Over 1 million doses of Astrazeneca COVID-19 jabs donated by Japan are set to beef up the country's COVID-19 vaccination drive. The country's vaccine czar brushes aside claims of preferential treatment in the distribution of COVID-19 jabs, saying the deployment of the life-saving shots is based on need and caseload of an area. The government says strict border control measures and quarantine rules will keep the country safe from the highly transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant. And this year's Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam is postponed to next year as the country grapples with a worsening COVID-19 situation. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muahe. Have a good day.